What you're seeing is me locking down entire rooms of ads in this Grandmaster without breaking a sweat. But there is a catch. I am not using any mods whatsoever to do this. This is purely my subclass and my exotic in action. That's how strong this build is. In fact, with this build, when you shatter a frozen champion, it will simply keep on freezing them infinitely. This is an extremely cool interaction with Ice Flare bolts because you can literally keep a champion frozen for more than 20 seconds. If you've been watching me for a while, then you know that I love Stasis Warlock and its turrets. But it is time to say goodbye to them because in this season, enemies simply die way too fast for turrets to be effective. That is why I am bringing you the best version of Stasis Warlock for this specific season. We are going to be spamming a literal infinite amount of grenades while boosting the damage of our weapons such as Sunshot by a whopping 270%, making it feel more like a special weapon. Just a quick reminder that I am streaming almost daily doing Grandmaster, Dungeon and Raid helps on my Twitch and YouTube. So if you need any assistance or want to learn new content, then I'll be more than happy to help. The bread and butter of this build is our exotic, the Osmiomancy gloves. This exotic grants you a second charge of your cold snap grenade. It also improves its tracking and makes it travel 35% further. To top this off, it also gives you grenade energy back whenever your cold snap hits or freezes an enemy. How much energy back you get depending on the enemy tier. This energy gain is so busted that it literally allows you to freeze a champion infinitely and end up with a net positive gain on grenade energy. Now, I have mentioned this in every single one of my videos, but for those new players, make sure that you try hitting a target directly with the cold snap grenade before it hits the ground, because this results in a greater grenade energy gain. Aside from that, this exotic is really straightforward. You simply spam your cold snaps every time you see an enemy. Let's talk about all the damage stacking that is happening in this build, which makes your Sunshot hit like a freaking truck. Starting off, we have Whisper of Rending, which is an absolute amazing fragment that provides your primary ammo weapons with a 42% damage boost when shooting frozen enemies. Next up, we have Radiant for that 25% weapon damage boost, which we are going to be constantly obtaining through the seasonal artifact, Flint Striker. On top of this, we are going to be using triple solar surges for a 22% damage boost. And lastly, since the seasonal surge is solar, that means another 25% damage boost in activities with the active modifier. This all adds up to a total 270% damage boost, which makes Sunshot and any solar weapon absolutely lethal. We also have two more fragments that are going to help out with our grenade and rift generation. Whisper of Refraction and even Whisper of Shards with Pillar of Ice allows you to spam your abilities even more often. Although Whisper of Shards can be a bit redundant with cold snaps, since we are already going to be getting them back pretty much instantly, it's still good to have just in case your cold snap misses or in case you want to create a turret instead. Alright, let's get into the aspects, fragments and mods, and later in the video I'm gonna tell you exactly how you want to play this build to make it the most efficient possible. In the artifact, make sure that you have Kindling Trigger, Flint Striker, Pillar of Ice, Torch, Hail of the Storm, and Race of Precision. Stat-wise, you ideally want to get 100 Resilience followed by 100 Discipline. However, don't worry too much about the Discipline since we are going to be getting our grenade back mainly through our Osmiomancy gloves, which means Discipline is not as important with this build. After that, try to get your recovery as high as you can. Ability-wise, make sure that you select Cold Snap Grenades because otherwise the build doesn't work without them. Aspect-wise, you want to run Ice Flare bolts. This aspect is absolutely amazing and is going to make chaining freezes so much easier. For your second aspect, this is personal preference. If you think that you can make use of a turret here and there in the Grandmaster or whatever activity that you're doing, then simply go for Bleak Watcher. On the other hand, if you want to make more use of your surges, while also providing melee energy to you and your teammates, then use Glacial Harvest instead. One thing I wouldn't recommend using is Frost Pulse because the area of this freeze is so freaking small that you would have to be hugging your enemies in order for this to even work. Fragment wise, we are using Whisper of Shards for the extra recharge rate of our grenade, Whisper of Rending for the extra damage increase on frozen targets, Whisper of Refraction for the class ability energy gain, and then for the last fragment, once again, is personal preference, so use whatever suits you the most. I have a very aggressive playstyle, so I like to use Whisper of Chains, because I know it's going to come useful multiple times. Whisper of Bonds is also extremely good with this build, because you'll be making so many orbs of power that your teammates will absolutely love you. A third recommendation that I can give you is Whisper of Torment, which is going to give you even more grenade energy, although I don't think it's much needed with this build. Mod wise, we start off on our helmet and we are using Heavy Ammo Finder with Heavy Ammo Scout and then a Solar Siphon. On our gauntlets, we are using Bolstering Detonation with Impact Induction and a Solar Loader. On our chestplate, we are running a Triple Resist mod setup. On our leg armor, we are using 1 copy of Elemental Charge, combined with double solar weapon surges. Now, if you're using Bleak Watcher instead of Glacial Harvest, then make sure to replace this with a third weapon surge. Finally, on our bond, we are using Reaper simply because we are going to be spamming our Rift very often, and we combine this with double time dilations so we can take advantage of our surges for a longer period of time. Weapon-wise, in the kinetic slot, I like to run a Riptide with Chill Clip or a Blinding GL with Chill Clip. That way I can always deal with overloads without any issue, while still having a good special weapon. For our energy, simply use your favorite solar weapon. In my case, I love using Sunshot specifically with this build because it hits extremely hard on frozen targets. For your heavy, you also want to stick with your favorite solar weapon, so you can also take advantage of the solar weapon surges. When it comes to playing this build, it's really not that complex. The hardest part is probably trying to hit enemies directly with the Cold Snap grenade, that way you get even more grenade energy back. But at the end of the day, this won't matter that much as long as there's at least 3 enemies, because you should get your entire grenade back regardless. Spam your Rift whenever you need to because you will get it back extremely quick thanks to our fragment and mods. I personally like a more aggressive approach with this build. That is why I tend to use Whisper of Chains for that extra damage reduction. Finally, save your super for emergency situations like having to clutch some revives or if you get low on health yourself. And that is all for today's video. If you have any questions, then ask me anything on my stream or Discord server. As always, I hope that you enjoyed the build and have a wonderful rest of your day.